So I've been meaning to do one of these for a while now. It just the quality's gonna be bad because this is scuff. It's just off the top of my head. I've had a lot of other ideas. If you talk to me, I've wanted to make a video about how the gods relate uh are shown across the series. And I've got a script kind of written for it, but it's nothing. I don't know. I've just never gone around to doing it because script reading, not my thing. I get my words mixed up quite a lot trying to read that kind of thing, and something can look good on a script and then I don't know how to deliver it, and I wanted it to be more high budget. But for this, I'm just going off the top of my head with some notes because I just really wanted to commit to something. So I'd watched Tale and Arky's video about the potential for Nier 4, and there was something that they were severely lacking. Video's a banger, but they didn't mention the board game, because Yoko Taro, when asked about a next entry in the Grimoire Nier Revised Edition, probably a joke, knowing him, mentioned a board game. And immediately, as soon as we got the translation for that and I saw it, it's all that's been able to stick in my head since. It's not realistic at all. I don't think it will ever happen, especially in the current climate, but I'll get into that later. It's just not marketable for her canon entry to be a board game. Saying that, they're crazy, so it could happen, but I'm really not sure it ever would. As much as I'd like it to, and we'll get into that, but it's just it's such a out there idea, and as far as I'm aware, a canon entry to a franchise being a board game is not existent. Side note, though, tabletop role-playing games having canon entries, like a canon entry being a tabletop role-playing game with like the lore book, that's probably been done. But for this, I am not going with the idea that it's a tabletop role-playing game, because those are way too open and you just wouldn't have the same structure and love for just a concrete story, because you've got a DM, you've got someone making up the story. As much as that's cool, I just don't think it would lean towards Nier's and Drakengard's benefit, because it's just a lot of the identity of the series just would not work with someone else telling the story. So what is my ideal format for it then? It's a legacy game. If you don't know what a legacy game is, it's a game that is a board game with a campaign where you alter the game over time. You slowly get new mechanics, you alter the board, you get new cards, you alter the cards, you destroy things, which I'll get into for being a cool idea. But it is basically a game that you play multiple sessions of, and it changes over time in a campaign format. Um, Off the top of my head, my favorite is Clank Legacy. I already like normal Clank, but the Legacy is great, and it leans into the fun theming in the game. Others are the Pandemic Legacy, Sagrada Legacy, Betrayal Legacy, Charterstone, My City, My Island, Match Curo, Tickets Right Legacy, and it's all, they're different in terms of gameplay. Like Clank Legacy is a deck builder. Sagrada is dice placement and management and stuff like that. Different gameplay wise, but they've still all got that core idea of altering the game as you play it and getting new mechanics and stuff. I'll preface with my whole ramble. Some of these ideas will just not work. Having some of the things I'm going to say in a mass producible state just wouldn't work. I can't see them being able to do it, but these are just ideas that I'm going to ramble off the top of my head. And also, I see it even being less of a possibility now due to the tariffs from America just fucking the board game industry. board games, a lot of the parts are made in different locations, and just it, as well as the pandemic, just it's a lot, required a lot on delivery to different locations, and it just fucked everything over. Even some of the biggest studios, it's not a studio, that's a video game. Um, Board game makers have been royally fucked, and a lot of it goes on Kickstarter, and Kickstarter's a whole thing. We won't get into that, but that business model especially not great for when the tariffs came into play. But that's anyway. We'll move on. Um, so I'll get onto the why I think Legacy fits well. So first of all, the branching narratives. You can make choices in Legacy games that lead you to playing different missions with different objectives, and um, this works well for a branching narrative. Obviously, Nier usually has you play all the narratives until getting to the end, but I feel like they could do it different here. Especially if they go with the Legacy format, probably it would be impossible to have you play all the narratives in that way. Due to you permanently altering the cards and stuff. But why I think this works is because it leans very much into that aspect of the permanent loss that the games do with the file deleting, for example, or, reincarnation being shut down and not playable. That aspect of having part of the game taken away from you to try and have the player to lose something works perfectly in a Legacy game where part of it is destroying the components, altering the board and stuff like that. That is the main thing that immediately was in my head of this works perfectly in the Nier series. The other thing that's immediately awesome is the idea of being able to have miniatures of all the Drake and their characters, especially with my idea of how this could look. But I just love collecting miniatures. I have the Dead by Daylight board game as another one of my obsessions, and having a miniature of all the original characters, and that is just so cool. And how Legacy games often progress is you'll open boxes and you won't know what's inside of them. And you'll reveal like pieces for the game or mechanics, stickers to stick in the rulebook. Imagine opening a box and you open it, and now you can play as your favorite character. Mine would be Priet. I love Priet. But also on the other end of that, imagine within the story, this is wild, but imagine one of your characters dies and you have to smash them up. It's goofy, but it's just something that immediately stuck in my head as it just feels Yoko Taro. You got your 2B miniature, and in the story she dies and you have to take a hammer to her, and when you take a hammer to her, there's a little note inside. It continues the lore, tells you where to continue the story, so you have to smash her. It's stupid, but it's just another idea. This was mentioned in the interview, but they said a big part of Nier is the soundtrack. How would you do that? They mentioned it being playable on a CD. I don't think that's a good idea. If they ever considered it, I doubt that's what they would go with. Although it would be cool if you opened up a box and you got like a CD and you played it and it was like a audio file from one of the characters. That kind of thing works. But for the soundtrack, I think you would have to go with a companion app to play the soundtrack. And having a companion app also just allows for you to do other stuff within the app. You could put cutscenes in there, or like some kind of puzzle. It allows you to take notes as well. And sometimes companion app is just used to keep track of certain mechanics to so you've got less to worry about on the board. But definitely for a soundtrack, it would work perfectly. You just select the mission, and it would just automatically play the soundtrack on there. It would work. Another part of companion app, again, joke, but you gotta. So once you're finished with the game, right, you got your game copy, and to see the true ending, you got to set on fire, take a video of it, and send it to Square Enix, and then they'll send you back the ending. Um, it just uh, the idea of just being like, right, now you finished the game, you must set your copy of the game on fire. Stupid ideas like that. Uh, Another part of why I think a legacy game would work so well is it is kind of the only board game genre that would allow you to change the gameplay midway through the game, and this is obviously a staple of the Nier series, is having different gameplay within it. So you could go from playing like a um a more management sim kind of thing to like a deck builder or a I don't know what they call it. Like the ones where you fight miniatures. It's just a miniature game, like Warhammer and that kind of thing. Again, not very reasonable, but it's just you could definitely do lighter genres with it and change the gameplay completely, change how you view the gameplay, or change a core mechanic of the gameplay so the game plays different. But that kind of thing, again, it just would perfectly fit the series. And the other thing that perfectly fits the series is sometimes you'll have like puzzles that you gotta do. So you get clues, or there's secrets in the box. The one that they love to do is a hidden envelope underneath everything. And you get to a point and it's like, take up the game tray, open the hidden envelope. Or like ciphers and stuff like that to solve puzzles and secrets and that kind of thing. I wouldn't say it's heavily done in the Nier series. We've definitely had some things like the recent novel making you change the website link to find the ending. That does kind of exist. And as how they tell the story is these the legacy games that tend to be more story heavy. They'll tell you to like read this chapter of the book kind of thing to get you to have the story. That's even you could alternatively do it in the companion app. You could have the story voiced and told through there while you're playing it. But either one works. But the puzzles would be something that I think would be cool. Before I get into how I would like apply this to an actual concept, let's go with the downside. This would piss everyone off. Not everyone, not me. I would be very happy, but the concept of being like, oh yeah, here's your favorite game franchise, now play a board game. Even though the series is already known for doing, stage play, audio dramas, concerts, anime, all of that, making you buy a board game which will be priced higher than a video game, at least in this concept, and play through a lengthy board game, possibly requiring other people, we'll get into that in a second, is just going to piss everyone off, especially if you make it canon important. But I don't care, Reincarnation already pissed everyone off, and it would be so fucking funny to watch. With the multiplayer, single-player thing on what genre not what genre, what format this game would fall into. I don't know. There's the one flaw in the concept that immediately I'm like, I don't know. Because I take Clank Legacy, for example. Clank Legacy 2 specifically, currently playing it. And everyone has their own character, and you will often go and read your own bits, or have like secret information, and it kind of gets hard to pay attention to other people's stories in that format over a table like that. And having like a character be played that you care about by someone else, that might feel weird, especially like in that kind of thing. It works because board game, the story isn't always the biggest part of it, but for a Nier game, it would be. Sort of how does this story fit within this format? So having a multiplayer game, and especially because if they did have a multiplayer game, you would have to have a variant on how many players are playing. It's like, does, for example, Clank Legacy 2, if you were to play the game with 2 players, you would miss out on the other 2 characters. It's a 4-player game, up to 4-player game. Obviously can't be played single player, but so you could do it. So, the story is kind of told outside of the players. You've got characters that maybe you control, but their story is told like to everyone. Uh, that way, you don't have like the characters are actually assigned to people. Although is weird. I really don't know how you could make that work. Um, but the thing with this, it would almost definitely be team-based. A lot of the legacy games that I played, I'm looking through. Pandemic is, I would say, the only one I've played that is pure co-op. Because a lot of them are, you're competing. Pandemic is pure co-op, so that's probably a good example there. Um, where am I going with this? Oh yeah, this kind of thing almost definitely would not work with it being a versus game. It would also not allow it to be single player. Which I think if they did do this, it would have to have a single player mode, but then you lose out on multiplayer gimmicks that could work within the story. But having a multiplayer Nier experience would be something completely new. We don't have that. Nier Automata has the ending, which has a community aspect to it. But making decisions with other people that massively affect the story, and maybe someone makes a decision that you don't like, you could play into that in the gameplay, but I don't know how it would feel, especially if you're doing like a one run only kind of thing, which legacy games are almost always one run only, because you apparently changed the thing. But yeah, I'll move on before I ramble about it too much, but I'll quickly go over some multiplayer exclusive gimmicks. You could have someone like turn traitor midway through, and start acting against you secretly or publicly, and that kind of thing I think could add a lot to an experience. Another stupid idea: one person's character dies and you just fucking boot them out the session. You're dead. You can't play anymore. So how would I actually apply this to a setting? Because I've gone over ideas on how they work thematically, but how would I apply this to a setting? First of all, I can't decide on a genre right now for the gameplay. My favorite kind of board games, deck builders, but I think they'd be less flexible in terms of trying to have multiple types of gameplay. It could be Clank style thing where you've got cards to do general actions, and then maybe how those general actions work, or maybe even how you draw your cards or build your deck could change depending on what you're doing. But I'm not sure. For setting, Kingdom of Night is, I feel, no matter what they do, Kingdom of Night is almost definitely it. Slight non-board game related tangent. Yoko Taro has, however, said before that a lot of the big lore stuff is background details, so I do worry that as much as Kingdom of Night feels like the obvious thing, maybe that's viewed too much as obscure background detail thing. It depends on how much what they can fit that into a good experience. But Kingdom of Night setting with branch/timeline traveling, this would allow you to have old characters, which would immediately be a massive appeal. being able to have miniatures of all your favorite characters would work in a setting where you are branch traveling, even if this might overlap too much with reincarnation conceptually, having, multiple characters, you send them out. Maybe you're fighting group B, you can assemble your cast from across the timeline to fight against group B across different parts. The different parts of the timeline could inform the gameplay. So maybe like Legion style era would work more with miniature movement and combat like that, be more combat focused, or maybe like Midgard era would focus more on uh, I don't know why my head went to potion explosion type gameplay. That would not work. But like, I don't know, a system for spell casting possibly. I guess it's a miniature like gameplay Warhammer type thing would just work full stop, because you could have characters with different abilities, um, different range and stuff like special abilities and stuff like that. That'd be cool. Again, probably less flexible. But another cool thing you could do is you could permanently alter the maps that you are playing on with legacy mechanics, depending on what happens in the story. Uh, if you were in Drakengard, for example, you have the seeds of resurrection come down, and that completely changes the map. You put stickers over the map, and now it's like that more like decimated area. You would also be able to have the permadeath of characters without it impacting the story too much. You get your characters over time, and then maybe one of them dies in combat, and then you can just murder them, destroy that miniature, absolutely decimate it. It would also be high on fan service by revisiting old things, but maybe this would make it less of a main entry and a side, and compared to a side one, because it would be too much revisiting old things. But it would allow you to whack a picture of 2B on the box, which, big selling standpoint there. But the core, most important part of this concept would be that this is a one-time experience unless you buy multiple copies, which I haven't actually thought about this. I've got notes. The idea of having to buy multiple copies of the game because you permanently altered it and can no longer play like it in a different like route, or you make those different choices because you permanently changed and altered things that just no longer work, so you have to buy a second copy of the game, is incredibly fucking funny. I did not write that down, but it's just come to my head. But it has that one-time experience that I think Reincarnation was going for, where you would only be able to experience one ending, and I think that'd feel unique. You've got that ending and you have to stick with it unless you're willing to spend $90. I don't know if it's dollars, I'm British. £90 would probably be more than that, on buying another copy of the game. Have I got anything else that I can go through? I think that's about it. Um, Shout out, Tail and Arkies. I will link your video in the description. I completely forgot that I forgot to say that I would do that earlier. Your video's a banger. Go watch it if you haven't already. But yeah, I just I can't get this idea out of my head. I want it to happen. It's not likely, but this is the kind of thing that I would love to see with Nier 4. It would just be so unique. It'd be an experience that a lot of people haven't had, even just, I would love to see more people get into the more deep board game scene. There's a lot of cool stuff in there. I've got a passion for it. It's just, I think playing games in person with someone and even being able to experience a story like Nier with and alongside other people making those decisions, if it were to be multiplayer, it would just be something really cool, especially if you could find a group of friends that are all into Nier, and just play a long campaign together. It would just be awesome. I don't know how to end this off. I'm just talking from the heart. I think that's about it. Uh, this is hopefully the first of many. As I said earlier, I've got the video on, well, not the video, the script on what God is in the Drake and Nier universe written to some extent. If I ever actually get around to making that a video, who knows? But thanks for listening to me ramble nonsensically. I probably brought up a bunch of things that people have no clue what the fuck I'm on about. Anyway, bye.